Luxottica. Luxottica is an Italian-based eyewear company that designs, manufactures, distributes, and retails eyewear. So pretty much their focus is going to be more on the frames. They are designing the frames for companies that they own, as well as being a contract manufacturer. And also they design for some of the brands that you guys might know of. They design and produce the frames for Michael Kors, for Versace, for Ralph Polo Lauren, and the list kind of goes on and on. When it comes to the retail portion of it, they also own certain stores. Probably the most notable is going to be Lens Crafters and Sunglass Hut. So Essilor and Luxottica completed a merger in October of 2018 to establish Essilor Luxottica. For me and my work, I personally work more with Essilor. I'm focusing more on the prescription lens. Our company is still kind of working on the integration for the merger, so we're not seeing too much of combined efforts yet, but hopefully in the next few years, I'm excited to see kind of what our company can do by combining the frames and lenses. I believe that we can provide a lot of value and kind of make a big impact in the market. So some of our brands that we have in the top line is going to be kind of the Essilor based brands, which is going to be focusing on the prescription glasses lenses. We have Verilux, which is our progressive lens, which is kind of targeted at customers over the age of 45. We have Crizal, which is anti-reflective coating. I'm not going to go too much into optics right now. And we have Transitions, and those are those glasses that they're light inside and they go dark outside and then back to light inside. And the bottom line is going to be the Luxottica brands. And I only picked a couple of them, but I think these are some of the more recognizable brands. We have Ray-Ban. So we actually own Ray-Ban, we own Oakley, and we own Costa. Okay. So now I kind of want to go into what do I do? And as I was talking with some of you guys prior to the meeting starting, what I really wanted to do was give you guys some insight into what it means to be an analyst. And again, I've only graduated a year ago and I've been working for a year and a half. So I don't have a ton of experience, but what I've done was I looked at a couple different job descriptions for a wide variety of analysts, kind of found some of the things that were common throughout all of them. And I kind of want to show you guys what that actually means. What does that kind of look like in my day-to-day? So the first thing that I want to go over is communicate results to stakeholders. So for me, what this looks like is I'm doing a lot of validation of data from IT and from finance. Kind of what we're doing is we're looking at the sales trends as the data comes in daily, and we're making sure that everything makes sense. And if things aren't making sense, maybe there's a huge decline in sales for a day, we're trying to figure out why is that happening and is this correct? So sometimes we're calling IT to say, hey, let's fix the data, or sometimes we're talking to the sales leaders and saying, hey, you're seeing a huge decline in sales in this area. What's going on? Maybe this is somewhere you need to focus. The next is to provide weekly projections to sales leaders to track performance. So again, this is a little bit more of descriptive data, just being able to pull the data, come up with some seasonality, and come up with some projections and forecasts for them so they can see, at the end of the month, where they're going to land. I don't know if any of you guys have ever worked in sales or know anyone that works in sales, but sales is very performance driven. You have a quota, you hit your quota in order to get your commission. So these are extremely valuable for the sales leaders, and they always want to know, how close am I to my quota? What do I need to do to get to that quota so I can make all my commission or maximize my commission dollars? The next is to track sales trends and provide recommendations to sales leaders. So this is probably one of my favorite parts of the job, and this is kind of when I get to explore and really be more creative with my analysis, where I start to look into different things of where is maybe some areas of opportunity, and maybe starting to track maybe a specific product, maybe a certain market, where I can start to kind of figure out what's going on, what is kind of making up that the total dollars in maybe a sales rep's territory, an entire district, region, or even nationally. And then sometimes we're able to uncover certain things where the sales team will start to focus on it. And honestly, I think one of my proudest moments was being able to build a report where I was able to kind of find an area where our margins were slipping. I was able to kind of develop a sheet where we were able to really see what the opportunity amount was. And we were actually able to see a 4 to 5% increase in sales in those areas. And I know 4 to 5% may not seem like a huge jump, but it was still one of my proud moments in working with this company. The second point I want to go over is analyze sales processes, productivity, sales efficiency, and sales optimization. So some of the things that I do for this is working a lot with Salesforce.com. For those of you guys that don't know what Salesforce.com is, it's a customer relationship management tool. It is probably the largest tool now. And kind of what it lets you do is, track some of your customers, track your leads, put in some targets, and most importantly, again, log calls and track calls. So leadership can start to see how many calls are people making, and it's a great way to kind of hold the salespeople responsible. And also we can put in things like target lists so they can better plan their call cycles. One of the things that we do is we take a lot of feedback from the sales team. I am on the phone 50 to 60% of my day with sales reps, sales managers, and even some of the sales VPs, just trying to figure out what's going on in the market. Sometimes they don't directly tell me what they need. Honestly, sometimes I'll sit on the phone with them and hear them complain for 20 minutes and try to come up with a solution to help them fix whatever problem they're running into. The next thing that I do quite a bit is provide territory analysis to optimize sales consultant coverage. And actually, one of the things that we do is we kind of maintain the territories and provide recommendations to further optimize territories. So one of the things we do is actually my team, we maintain all of the territories by making sure all of the accounts are in the right place. So as a lens manufacturer, we work with a lot of labs that kind of produce the glasses, and we want to make sure that the account is being credited to the correct reps. So we're doing a lot of account movement all the time, rebuilding territories, and sometimes even trying to figure out, hey, what is the best way for us to build this territory? Maybe we want someone to call on a certain customer once every 90 days. Is that going to be possible with the size of their book? And maybe let's look at their home location versus where all of their accounts are. Is it plausible for them to kind of make those calls in that time period? The next point is to locate hotspots for sales and identify areas with large opportunity. And as you guys know, there's probably some markets that are going to be that are doing really well for us, but there's also some markets that are really struggling. And I think this is definitely when we start to work with other teams, when we decide to either come up with certain rebate packages, or we want to develop some specific marketing that we can give to different areas in order to kind of boost the sales. The next one is work on cross-functional teams to create solutions for complex needs. This is really fun for me, and I think this is probably one of the best experiences I've had when kind of stepping into a role and working in a corporate environment for the first time, is just being able to see kind of what other teams do. How do they look at the data? And potentially, even to be honest, is this something that I might want to do in the future? So as an example, we work with marketing to create target lists for customers. And again, sometimes we're coming up with a new promotion, maybe like a BOGO, buy one, get one free, buy one, get one half off, or we're launching a new product. We start to kind of segment the customers into different groups, kind of maybe they're a high user of Verilux, so we're going to target these customers, and kind of so on and so forth. We also work with finance a lot to track sales trends versus budgeted estimates. we have a weekly finance recon where we're constantly working with finance just to make sure, hey, do the numbers look good? How's our margins looking? Is everything, acceptable to you guys? And we're working with sales leaders quite a bit to say, hey, if you're not tracking towards kind of that budgeted amount, what's going on and what could we do to help you? And I think that's the great part about this job is sometimes you don't have, a set solution for everything, but you kind of have to go dig and fight for it. And I think kind of that freedom is what I really enjoy about this role. I don't want to go into too much about what I do. I don't want to bore you guys with, a job description. So what I want to tell you guys now is, a couple things after being out of college for a year and being in the workforce that I've learned. So I titled this slide "Things I Wish I Knew Before Graduating," and I was very worried in college all the time about what life was going to be like after graduating, and I felt like I needed to know exactly what my career was going to be like. Year one, I was going to start as a regional sales analyst. By year three, I was going to work my way to a marketing analyst. From there, I was going to go to grad school and so on and so forth. And because my plans kept changing for what I wanted to do, I was always so scared. But to be honest, after working, it's okay to not know what you want to do in your career. And it is okay if your plan changes. I mean, for me, like I said, I took this role because technically I'm under the marketing umbrella. And I thought this would be a great gateway for me to become a marketing analyst at this company. After working on those cross-functional teams, I realized I do not want to be in marketing. I just didn't think that it was for me. Right now, I'm kind of leaning towards being more of a financial analyst in the future. But at the same time, things can change, and I'm perfectly okay with that. So it is fine for you guys to have a general idea of what you want to do, but you don't need to have, a set 5-year plan, 10-year plan, and it is okay to kind of change your plan as you go. The second point is to network. And I know you guys hear this probably from every single professor. You hear this from every single club meeting you go to, but it really is huge. And I'll give you, maybe 2 examples. One is kind of more towards work, and one is kind of actually intercompany. And it's kind of a funny story, but I think it's a good one. So the first one is always to network. So you never know who is going to be that person that might be a lead into a company. I mean, you're thinking 5 years, 10 years down the line, someone in this call might be the perfect lead for you to get another job. Some of your professors, they might have connections with people that they've worked with in the past who are looking for people. And if you have that connection with them, they might be able to get you a job. So you really never know who's going to be that connection that might get you the job that you want. And you never know when that connection might pop up. I mean, it could be maybe an old college person 10 years down the line that's going to help you get the job. So I think it's just important to meet as many people as you can, kind of get to know people that have similar goals to you and kind of want to go down the same path, and then just keep in contact with them because you never know. And the second one is, even when you're in a company, when you're in this club, it's great to interact with everyone. I know it's a little awkward sometimes. I was in college as well. You don't talk to everyone, but it is a great opportunity. Perfect example for me is one day I just decided to go grab lunch, and I asked the guy if I could sit there and hang out with him, and we had a great conversation, and he ended up being in kind of IT procurement, so buying computers and stuff. I had no idea who he was, and we just became good friends after that. Well, 6 months down the line, my computer's not working very well. I'm having a lot of computer issues, and I just kind of sent him a little Google Hangouts message, and I said, like, hey, my computer's not working. I mean, like, what's kind of the steps to do it? And he goes, so we actually got these new computers in. It was supposed to go to this team, but I can give you one. So, I mean, it's like a very small example, but it was a great opportunity. And I actually got a new computer from it, and it's working great. So that's just, I guess, one small example of just being able to network within the company. My third point is to be a lifelong learner. So always being an active learner. the half-life of professional skills is starting to shorten more and more. And what I mean by that is we are really in an information age where things are starting to progress very fast. Sometimes some concepts, certain technologies become outdated a lot faster than they used to. So you need to continue to be a lifelong learner. And I think being in school does a great job of this, because what it really teaches you is, what is your learning style? Are you the type who sits down and watches YouTube videos in order to study for a test? Are you the type who can just read it from a textbook in order to get it done? Are you the type that if you're learning something maybe mathematical, that you just have to keep drilling it out in order to get it done? I think that's a great thing that college really teaches you, is kind of your own learning style. And there's a lot of times when, you know, you're gonna have to get trained as well. And if you know how you learn best, I think it's great to communicate that with your manager in order to, you know, be very effective, and just to be an active learner and just make the training process enjoyable. I think for me, as an example, right now is one of the things that I've started looking into is I really wanted to improve my SQL skills. You know, during my job, I learned the basics of SQL, and in college, I came into the workplace. I wasn't very good at it. I just, you know, I struggled a little bit with it. We don't even use it anymore, but I just think it's a great skill for me to learn. So that's one of the things I do on the side. And that's pretty much it for what I have. I did try to get one thing for you guys. I know a lot of you guys are going to start going out, interviewing for jobs, interviewing for internships. So what I actually did was I asked one of the VPs at my company and one of the kind of higher up managers, I said, what do you look for in candidates when interviewing them? I asked them not necessarily for technical skills, but more for kind of some of the soft skills and some of the things to look out for when you are doing an interview. So after talking to them, I kind of grouped them into 5 different buckets. The first one is communication, and this is the first one that they brought up. You have to remember what it's like to be the person interviewing. This could be your manager in the future. So how they described it is, you want to make the interview almost feel kind of like a lunch conversation. The reason being is, this person, they're looking at you to see, do you have the skills to succeed? Are you mentally prepared? But also, you might be working with this person every day. You might have to see this person. They might have to train you for a couple months. So they're also thinking, is this the type of person that I want on my team? Is this a person that, you know, my team would get along with? So you want to make sure that you can kind of loosen up a little bit. And I know it's hard because going into interviews, you're very nervous, but just try to do your best just to make it feel like that lunch conversation. The second is business knowledge. The one thing that they emphasized here is, don't give the Wikipedia answer. And pretty much what they mean by this is, for example, if you know you're interviewing at Apple, maybe they say, why do you want to work for our company? Well, a lot of people will say something along the lines of, I really like technology. I've always had an iPhone. It's a large company, and this is really why I want to work for it, just to see what like a large company's, what it's like to work at a large company and to work with an industry leader. That is an example of kind of a Wikipedia answer that a lot of people will give. What they want to see is, how much research are you really doing? What, maybe you can start to see, what is their go-to market strategy, and what do you really, and why does that resonate with you? So then they're starting to see that you have a deeper understanding of the company. Maybe it's, what is their supply chain doing that you really like about them? Maybe you like that their model where they're not using contract manufacturers, but they actually own all their factories for production. That is something that's, you know, more practical, and it shows you've done your research, and it shows you understand the business a lot more. The next point is enthusiasm and energy. This is just, and I think this is primarily important, especially kind of in these COVID times. You know, you want to make sure that you sound like, you don't want to make it sound like you just woke up, and you really want to make it sound like you're excited. to interview for this company and have the opportunity to potentially work for this company. Now, you don't need to be overly enthusiastic or fake or anything like that, but just show some genuine interest in the company that you're doing. When you're asking, like, ask some questions like, hey, like, I read that you guys are doing this. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? So just really sound excited about the opportunity to interview and the potential to work there. The next one is critical thinking. And critical thinking, it's more along the lines of, sometimes they may ask you kind of scenarios. I call it the what ifs, where in an interview they'll say, what if you were put in this situation, what would you do? What they really look for here is sometimes they're not looking for a right answer per se. What they really want to hear is your thought process. Can you think through a complex need critically, and how do you kind of come to that solution? That's really what they want, what they really want to hear. Because the thing, and I guess this kind of goes with my next point as well, in the corporate world, or in pretty much any job from anyone I've talked to, I would say the biggest difference between college and working is the amount of ambiguity there is kind of in the work environment. There's not a right answer all the time. There's not a simple solution. Sometimes there's not a, financial model, a marketing model that you've learned in school that could really apply to these things, and you've got to come up with a solution to them. So what they really want to hear is, how do you take these kind of complex business issues at hand and really come up with a, well thought out solution to that problem? Talked a little bit about this before, but adaptability. Things aren't always fun in the workplace, and I think that's also like school. But there's certain situations that arise, and I think personally for me, one of the hardest things was in college. I got to work with data that was always kind of cleaned for me. It was 100% right. You can always kind of get to the answer. But after kind of, working, it was sometimes someone would tell me, hey, this data is 80% correct, but this is all I have for you. And I was given a deadline where I needed to build a report for one of the VPs by the next day. I had to learn how to start being okay with telling them, hey, you know what, this data is 80% right. This is what we have to work with, but here you go. And just being able to be okay with that. That was the hardest thing for me to do, because I was somewhat of a perfectionist before, where I just wanted everything to be spot on. So that's all I have for my presentation. I hope that you guys got some insight for it, and I will leave it open for questions now.
So I was a little bit curious, how's COVID affected your job and the industry as a whole?
So when it comes to COVID, there was a time when our company did have to kind of do some furloughs and things like that. Everyone is back to work now. And there is changes. I mean, we're not back in the office yet. We don't have a set date to be back in the office. So a lot of us are working from home, or everyone's working from home. And affecting the industry, I think during those couple of months, we really took a hit when it comes to our sales performance. But glasses is somewhat of an essential service, I would say, where regardless of kind of what's going on out in the market, people need glasses. I mean, especially when you're talking about kids that are in high school and college and so on and so forth, our eyes just progressively get worse. I don't know if any of you guys have glasses here, but I remember every year my eyes would just get worse and worse. By about 8 months in, I couldn't even see through the glasses that I got. So I needed those glasses. So, business is recovering at a much faster rate than we anticipated. But I will say, when it comes to just a working standpoint, everyone's still kind of adjusting to, working from home, being on calls more, and probably similar to what you guys are going through now. I mean, even the fact that, we're kind of on a Microsoft Teams meeting rather than meeting in person, I think that kind of shows, the same thing that's kind of happening in the corporate world right now.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What were some of the challenges you faced as a new hire? Was there like a learning curve, and how did you adjust to starting out working as opposed to being an intern?
There was challenges. I mean, I definitely felt like I was unprepared. A lot of my team has master's degrees, and I came in with a bachelor's degree. So I was definitely nervous. But I think the one thing that really helped me is, and I felt like I was being annoying, but I asked a ton of questions. And I think sometimes we're a little afraid to ask questions because you feel like it's an obvious answer. But when you're training with someone, they're there to help you and they want you to be successful. Especially when you're with the manager, I think it's best to kind of just ask questions as you're going. Just because if not, then you're gonna kind of have a gap in your logic. And I think one of the things that's helped me be successful in working is starting to understand how the business works as a whole rather than just understanding your role. If you can start to learn, for example, how the money flows up and down throughout the company, how it goes from production to end user, then you really start to get a better grasp of everything that's happening.
I have a question for you. Sorry if you answered at this beginning, I was late. What are the primary tools you use in your job in terms of software?
Yeah. So I still use Excel a lot, but we're slowly starting to shift away from that. Right now we're using Tableau. We're soon also getting rid of Tableau and we're going to switch to another software called ClickSense. But primarily those three as well as Salesforce. I have touched SaaS a little bit, but we don't go too deep into it. And yeah, from a technology standpoint, that's most of what I use.
So did they give you training sessions for those, or how much did they expect you to know, and how much did they train you up?
So when it came to Excel, I learned Excel in school. I knew a lot of things, but on the first day, I turned my brightness all the way down on my laptop so I could watch YouTube videos to figure out how to do it. I didn't know everything, but again, like I said, you can ask people for help. But I think there's also the aspect where you need to go out and learn a couple of things yourself. And for me, at the time our company was using SQL, I felt like my SQL skills weren't up to par. And some days I used to ask my manager, hey, do you think you can come in 30 minutes early for work and kind of help me work through SQL? I watched some YouTube videos on it and they were really helpful. I just think, when it comes to things like Tableau, ClickSense, a lot of them are kind of same, different interface, maybe a little bit different capabilities, but they just kind of want you to know the basics of it. And I think the biggest thing is just be able to be teachable. I mean, if they can teach you, then you're fine.
Right,
I have a question. So I bought some glasses a few months ago, but like I looked at the prices. Like I never had glasses, so that's when I looked at the prices. Many of them are, I guess, um, super expensive. Like you look at a frame, and it looks like at most like $100. It looks, but then the cost is $400. Um, so I don't know, like, do you think, is it something in the production process that makes it so expensive that it doesn't like look as expensive? Or is it like, I guess, a market monopoly that companies have? Because you said that your company owns Oakley, Ray-Ban, etc. So like, what are the reasons that they come out so expensive?
Yeah, and I can speak on that. So number one, to be honest, from the frame side, again, like I said, I work primarily with the lens side of it. So I'm not completely sure kind of how the frame industry works and kind of the pricing on that. When it comes to lens, there is a wide variety of kind of prescription lenses you can get out on the market. So for example, you've probably seen advertisements for Warby Parker and Zenni that are selling cheaper lenses and cheaper glasses, and you can get them for probably around $100 to $200. when you're looking at a pair of glasses that come from my company, I mean, sometimes the lenses can be a little bit more expensive. And sometimes we charge a premium for certain things that have to be done in the lab. For example, these lenses that I currently have, they had to do some custom measurements. For example, how far is my eye going to be from the glasses itself? Kind of where is it line up? Because they add a couple different things that are a little bit more customizable features to it. Again, I don't want to go into too much optics. I feel like it gets a little confusing, and that's kind of its own rabbit hole itself. But there is certain technologies in glasses that can make them quite a bit more expensive. But just like anything, there's also low-cost competitors. You can go to Costco, you can go to Walmart, you can go to a lot of places to get glasses. We're kind of more on the premium end.
So I have a question regarding kind of that. How long did it take you to kind of get an idea of the industry, like as a whole, like learning everything about optics and stuff while on the job?
Yeah, and to be honest, I've learned most about optics as my time as a sales consultant intern, because I was actually out in the field. I was seeing how they actually went to, the optometrist, and we're kind of selling the products. They even had me do a couple calls where I had to go in, advertise our new product and a couple of things like that. So I really needed to know the ins and out of it, because if not, man, eye doctors would drill you, because they're the ones with all the optical industry. So if you come in and you say something wrong, you might lose a sale right there. So I had to know a lot about it. But I think there's also just certain things you can research. I mean, there's like a news website for everything optometry called Vision Monday. I try to read some articles on there. We have like a site intercompany site that has a bunch of trainings on products, even has some trainings to get, ABO certified, which is actually, like an optometry certification. It's not at the level of, going to school to become an optometrist, but it actually teaches you a lot. So, I mean, just spending some time doing some research, and also just kind of that sales experience really helped me.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, regarding, your industry, would you say there has been actually an increase in buying glasses because of COVID, since more people are staring at screens? I mean, regarding me, like I normally used to wear contacts a lot more, and now I just feel like it's better to wear glasses because they protect from the light and all that. So, what do you think about that?
I don't know if more people are starting to get glasses, at least for prescription glasses. That's an interesting point that I actually never really considered at this time. But I know that we do sell computer lenses that kind of come with, more blue blocking protection. We do try to make ours look a little better. We don't try to have like the really yellow ones, but I think that's a great point, and we have seen a kind of uptick in glasses sales just because of kind of the way that vision insurance plans are kind of positioning themselves right now. But I think that's probably an interesting trend that we can track, but I think it's a little hard to kind of attribute an increase in glasses sales due to kind of COVID right now. It's too early.
Cool, thanks.
What's your advice to stay motivated? Like graduating from college, I guess it's going to be a different experience from working full time. How was your experience?
I will say my experience is probably going to be different than some people's, but I think one of the things that was very, demotivating for me was I spent too much time on LinkedIn. I spent too much time on Instagram, and I saw the jobs that everyone else was getting. Everyone has their own path, and when you graduate, you can't really compare it to everyone else. I mean, it may sound like a really good job, but no one's gonna really go on Instagram and talk about, you know, the bads of their job, or even LinkedIn and necessarily talk about the bads of their job. They're going to show you the good sides. So I think one of the things that really, you know, motivated was reminding me that, you know, I'm kind of on my own path. And I think this is more probably around the time when I was applying for internships. It was very demotivating, you know, not getting calls back. And I believe that I sent out my resume to 75 different companies for internships. I had an interview with 6 of them, and I got 2 internships from that. And it wasn't until kind of the later ones that I sent out that I got my internship. And it was extremely demotivating. Like, I just felt like, man, like, no company's going to want me. But, you know, I just kept grinding through, sending it, and then just kind of trusted the process. And by the end of it, I was able to land an internship. And lucky enough for me, I was able to get a job out of it. So I think it's important just to, you know, trust the process, grind through it. It's going to be tough at times, but just continue to send out those resumes.
Yeah, for me, I already like uninstalled Instagram, social media, but it's a big deal, you know, like just comparing yourself with other people. It's not healthy.
Yeah, definitely.
Well said.
And you have
That's
your own
very
path
true.
again. So.
A little more personal questions, like, are there any skills or classes you wish you took before you got out of the job? What was a class or 2 that you thought helped prepare you best for the job?
I think these 2 questions kind of go together. All right. So finance for me is the biggest thing that I wish I spent some more time really taking seriously. And I honestly wish that I took a couple more classes. I think really no matter where you're going, there's always going to be money involved. And as you really start to understand, again, the way money flows throughout a company, I mean, why are we spending this much on marketing? Kind of how does that marketing dollars translate into profit? Kind of even supply chain, you know, we're investing this much in supply chain. What is kind of, you know, our margins and our returns? Because anytime I feel that we want to progress past the point of a junior entry level position and really want to start moving up to management and higher level, you're going to probably be responsible for some profit and loss and be able to kind of manage your own business. So I think finance is something that's extremely important, really, regardless of whatever industry you go into, whether you're going into corporate America, whether, you know, you kind of want to work for the government, there's always going to be money involved. And I think that's just a great skill to know. It's just, again, finance, accounting. I didn't like those classes in college. They were probably some of my least favorite classes, but I really wish I took them more seriously now. And to be honest, I wish I had the opportunity to take a couple more.
Well, if there's no more questions, then I guess we'll wrap it up. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I wanted to invite everybody to next week's meeting. We're going to have career services come out at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. They're going to talk about financial literacy, so investments, saving strategies, and basics of banking. Thank you, Connor, for coming again.